Tell him, McCluskey. Tell him what time it is.
Little Hen says it's time to rock and roll.
All you people are so scared of me.
Come quietly or there will be trouble.
Man, that's just me.
I'm Batman.
This is Sparta!
There is a tiger in the bathroom.
I'm an excellent driver.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
Pop quiz, hotshot.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
Happy Hunger Games, and may the odds be ever in your favor.
Hello and welcome to this week's Monday Movie Show live on Monday, the 24th of November, 3 weeks in a row. We might break our world record next week. Could it be 4 weeks in a row? One whole month where we've done the show on a Monday.
God, hasn't it been? And also, it's November the 11th. It's November 24th. We're a week away from December.
Oh, don't remind me. They're already yabbering on at my work about putting Christmas decorations up and stuff. Sticking Christmas music on.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you're getting that too, yeah, Christmas music. I do not regret not working in a place where they just play Christmas music all day, because it would do my head in, you know.
At least one good thing, looking over the movie schedule for the next 3-4 weeks, there isn't Christmas movies.
Yeah, not yet. I think they're saving them all up for Christmas week. So Christmas week, if we do a TV movie of the week when we do a special.
Well, I'm talking about cinema-wise.
There
was just one that was released last week, which we'll mention in the top 10. But I can't think of any more Christmas-esque kind of films released in the cinema of the next few weeks. But this week, however, you're taking over the cinema section of the show, even though I'm hosting, because you're reviewing absolutely everything, aren't you?
I've seen quite a lot this week, yeah.
Yeah, so what you're looking at then?
We've got the biggest film of the week, no doubt, is the latest Hunger Games spin-off with Mockingjay Part 1. And then a hodgepodge of a whole collection of things, including vampires in a spoof comedy in What We Do in Shadows. We have a James Brown biopic on Get On Up. We have a movie directed by and starring Tom Lee Jones in The Homesman and the Western. And we have Idris Elba. That's one of those things. Idris Elba. The many times I only say it now. Idris Elba. No, doesn't sound right.
Don't say it 5 times, because you might burst out of a mirror or something and kill you.
Yeah. Okay. No, I've got to say it backwards for that. Actually, what would it be? Elba. Abla.
Candyman. Abla? You see his name 5 times in the mirror and he comes and kills you.
Oh no! His surname in reverse is Spanish for "Do you speak?"
Okay, we're not here for Spanish lessons. We're here for films.
That's just interesting. Yeah, No Good Deed is the other film with him in it.
We eventually got there, and on Blu-ray and DVD, I'm taking over the show, but I don't have as many films. I'll be looking at these 3.
Yeah, undoubtedly the biggest movies of the year in this week's show, including The Hunger Games in cinemas. In DVD, we've got Guardians of the Galaxy. You may have heard of that film. But not only such a big film as that, we also got Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. And then also rounding up the releases this week, which aren't that many, but there's also Bayonetta, Bloody Fate, which is the anime sort of adaptation of the computer game. Yeah,
and it made me slightly happy because the fact that I get to review a manga film. We very rarely review manga films on this show. I can't even remember the last one I did. But I get to finally review a manga film. It's sort of like reviewing a Ghibli film. Rare, but a treat. Maybes. We've also got the box office top 10s in both the cinema section and the Blu-ray and DVD top 10. And on top of that, movie news and TV movies and movie of the week. Make sure you visit the website mondaymovieshow.co.uk to find all links to everything that we do, including the top 10s, and even find the link, if I can actually get one together, for our show on Podkicker, because we're now back in podcast form, properly, and downloadable. You can find Podkicker on the Play Store. It's not available on the iTunes App Store. Apple, get your gear together. But you can find us on Podkicker on there, and we will try to get ourselves on the iTunes Store.
We're looking at it now, because we've got the option of being able to set up a link to it again.
Yeah, our feeds has finally returned.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what's happened there, but finally we have it back, so we can try and do it again.
But at least we're in podcast form in some way, shape or form. So if you are listening to us in podcast form on Podkicker, Tell us what you think of the show. You can get us on Facebook, facebook.com/Monday Movie Show, on Twitter @Monday Movie Show. Direct your comments towards me at Cryptic Tadpole or Andrew at EHDVD, and you can email us if emailing is that what people still do. It's like letters now. Email us at mondaymovieshow@yahoo.com, or you can send us a carrier pigeon or anything like that.
I don't know the carrier pigeon would be able to find us, and also we're actually in two places. So who would it go to?
Me, because I'm the closest to the south. Depends on where you're from. If you're sending us from somewhere like from Iceland or whatever, then you, North Hemisphere. If you're sending stuff from the Southern Hemisphere, me.
I think you thought that out about too much, haven't you?
No. Right, kick things off with some movie news.
Website Variety has just announced that the villain role of Bryan Singer's next X-Men sequel, Apocalypse, has been cast. The movie's villain of the title, character called Apocalypse, will be played by 2 Days of January and Inside Llewyn Davis star Oscar Isaacs. This is after, of course, he has played a role in the latest Star Wars movie, Force Awakens. X-Men Apocalypse is going to be released in May in America on 27th, 2016. Expect the UK date to be around about then.
Yeah, I'll do my bit of Star Wars news just straight after this because it ties in. It's only a little bit anyway, but interesting casting in Oscar Isaacs, because I can't remember seeing him in anything before I watched Inside Llewyn Davis, which I really, really liked that film, and I thought he was fantastic in that movie.
He's in Drive,
but not in like a sort of like big role.
No, not.
Yeah,
his small role.
With Inside Llewyn Davis, it was like a main role. We don't know what his role is in Star Wars: The Force Awakens, and with him now playing a huge, massive bad guy, like he couldn't get any more bigger in Apocalypse, because Apocalypse is just undefeatable. Because Bryan Singer has turned around and says that the next X-Men film is going to be more of a disaster film rather than a superhero movie because of what the bad guy is actually like.
I'm kind of disappointed by this, because I was hoping, as much as we know that Benedict Cumberbatch has supposedly been cast, but it's still yet to be properly, officially confirmed, as Doctor Strange in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I was really hoping Oscar Isaacs might have been up for it, because if you've seen the character in the comics, I don't know the character, I don't know the comics very well for that one, but the look of him, I would have thought Oscar Isaac with a lock, he looks so much like the character, more than Benedict Cumberbatch does, in my opinion, and I thought he would have been perfect casting for it, but alas, it's not going to happen, because if he's cast in another, as much as it's not Marvel themselves, it's a Marvel title, and it's unlikely that Marvel will cast him as well, so it's a shame.
Yeah, but he's still going to be part of a superhero franchise.
Yeah, but only for maybe one film. I mean, Doctor Strange would have been a multi-film appearance.
It just depends. He might have been one of these actors who was looking at maybe he got roles sent to him, superhero wise, and thinking, do I want to tie myself down to playing one character in multiple films, or do I want to have the safer option for him so he can expand what he's doing to just be the character, a character in one superhero film, and then go off and do other movies instead of just being latched on to doing that character for a few films. So he might have thought it better for his career to do it that way. Because if you look at the difference between Inside Llewyn Davis and X-Men, yeah, it is a bit of a gap there from a drama about a folk singer to an ultimate bad guy. It's an interesting dichotomy. But leading on to that, when you said Oscar Isaacs is in Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, just a quick piece of news is that the first trailer for Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, will be shown in selected American cinemas this Friday. So the day after Thanksgiving, obviously it will be put straight online as soon as it's shown in cinemas. And supposedly it's going to be 88 seconds long. So wondering what we'll see. Probably it's about 60 seconds of that is going to be lens flare.
Yeah. I say as well, another thing I said, I don't know if you caught this or not, but there was also a quick thing today saying about what the first spin-off Star Wars film may be. That it's possibly going to be a heist movie involving a group of people trying to steal the Death Star plans. I'm just thinking, is that going to tie in then? Are you going to see R2-D2 at the end of it? Because if you remember in the very first Star Wars, not Episode 1, I mean the original A New Hope, obviously they were smuggling Death Star plans to the rebels in R2-D2. So are we going to see the bit that preceded that of the group stealing the plans and sneaking them aboard Princess Leia's ship in R2-D2?
Maybe this could be the Boba Fett film that people were
maybe a mix of the two. Yeah,
were hoping for, because it would actually suit that better if it was a Boba Fett film, considering his character anyway. So is this the one also that's going to be done by Gareth Edwards? Because he's supposed to be doing a Star Wars film, so will he be able to handle that? Because also Gary Whitta, who wrote the Book of Eli, he's supposedly on board with the Gareth Edwards movie, so that's an interesting duo, that Gareth Edwards and Gary Whitta, because I really liked the Book of Eli. I thought it was a smart film. So we'll see. Star Wars fans, we're going to get a deluge of stuff now, aren't we, from this Friday onwards? Just
it's
nothing
going to be
but
relentless
Star Wars stuff.
every week, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be like us mentioning Marvel every single week. That'll never stop. Other news is, it's not Marvel related, thank God. Angelina Jolie has confirmed that she will retire from acting and concentrate on directing in the future. Jolie told De Jour, I've never been comfortable as an actor. I've never loved being in front of the camera. She also confirmed that her role in Cleopatra will be one of her last.
So saith the famous last word sort of thing. Yeah.
Is she meaning that it'll be her last as a leading role, and that she won't mind popping up every now and again in a film just as sort of like a cameo appearance or a supporting character or somebody that's not very mainstream, so she can concentrate on directing and maybe writing, because her directorial debut's out in next month? Or does this just mean that she is fully just hanging up her boots and not acting anymore?
Yeah, it is a vague answer, but I don't know. I have, I kind of like it. Go, yeah, okay, maybe, but I don't. I'll see it. I'll believe it when I see it more than expecting it from that.
Would it be a sad day to see Angelina Jolie hang up her boots? Is she one of the more important actresses out there? When you see her name attached to a movie, does it instantly make you think, "Oh, I think there'll be a good film with her being in it"?
I think she's got that good sort of star quality to a film that's needed sometimes, and I mean things like it didn't help with I forgot the name of it now. Maleficent, yeah, it didn't help with that because I just didn't think she was particularly good in that. But I mean, look at things like Salt, which was not a brilliant film, but she definitely made it a better film than if it had been, I think, some other actors, because it was originally going to be a male part, and they took it and made it into a female part, and she did that role fairly well. And there's supposedly we're going to do a sequel. If she's going to quit from acting, then she won't be appearing in that if it happens, will she? And so
Pepper.
Very good.
I hate myself for that joke. That was bad.
Very good. No, but it's just that when you hear an actor or someone say they're going to quit, a part of acting or something, I mean, yeah, you've heard it before. Some actors do it and don't go back. I mean, look at Rick Moranis. He quit to look after his family after his wife passed. So it can happen, but if they've been doing it for that long, what else are they going to do?
I think the ultimate Mickey taker in that front is Joaquin Phoenix. When he says that he was quitting acting and then he made himself look like a complete hobo. Yeah, and then he instantly just thought, this is bad, I need to get back into acting. And then he started in The Master, which I didn't like at all. So that didn't help for him. But Jolie, like you said, she has done some decent parts. She has done some stinkers as well. Look at the Tomb Raider films; they're pretty bad. Even though she was actually a decent, she was a decent Lara Croft. She looked a lot like the creation of Lara Croft from when the games originally came out on the Saturn and the PlayStation. But she has picked some suspect kind of roles. But if she is hanging up her boots, it is sort of like losing a main actress in America. But you can definitely guarantee that somebody is going to be able to take the mantle from her. According to The Wrap, Tom Cruise is the favourite to play the lead role in the reboot of the Highlander franchise for Summit Entertainment. Cruise will not play Connor McLeod, who was played by Christopher Lambert in the original 1984 film. That makes me feel really old. However, he is rumoured to take the role of Sean Connery's character in the film.
I'm just thinking. Can you imagine Sean Connery and Tom Cruise's previous film roles being switched? You know, I can't imagine. I'm sorry, I can't imagine Tom Cruise credibly giving that speech in The Untouchables of, you know, they put one of yours in the hospital, you put one of theirs in the morgue, you know, that kind of thing. And same thing for Connery doing, well, maybe for some of Connery doing some of Tom Cruise's roles, but yeah, I can't see that.
Yeah, you can just imagine Sean Connery in things like Legend or Cocktail or Risky Business. That would just be really scary, just seeing Sean Connery slide out in a shirt and his underpants.
What about the I feel the need for speed?
I think it would actually take him about a month to actually climb any building or whatever in Mission Impossible if he was the lead role in that. So, yeah, considering that Cruise prefers to do his own stunts.
And Tom Cruise playing is he supposed to be, because the character of Cortez was he not Spanish supposedly? I mean that was one to get past as well. Sean Connery playing a Spanish character but with a Scottish accent. I mean that was, oh dear. Let's not get stuck on this.
Oh, the father of Indiana Jones. How eerie would that be?
That was actually fairly believable.
Yeah, but how eerie would that be if it was Tom Cruise playing the father of Indiana Jones?
Brilliant. Oh dear.
The final piece of news is Matthew McConaughey is in talks to star in Warner Brothers' remake of The Stand. The Stand is set to be split into 4 films, with all 4 getting done by Fault in Our Stars director Josh Boone.
Sorry, I'm still getting over the mental image of roles reversed for Sean Connery and Tom Cruise.
That's an interesting question for people out there. Role reverse 2 actors. Take one actor from one franchise and take another actor from another franchise and switch them around. See what happens. Be interesting to see.
Yeah, I can imagine there'd be some right pair-ups going on there.
Yeah, make it slightly insane as well, not like straightforward ones. Not like take an actor from a superhero film and then mix it with another actor from that. Make it stupid. But yeah, back to that piece of news there. Matthew McConaughey in The Stand, being the lead bad guy.
Well, I have no problem with Matthew McConaughey as an actor now, since, you know, going back to his acting since Killer Joe, which was absolutely fantastic, and then everything he's done since then. Magic Mike, just recently Interstellar, and also the film we did between those. I can't think of the name of it. Even so much as going back a little bit further with The Lincoln Lawyer. Lincoln Lawyer is a perfectly fine film and good performance from him. So I have no problem with him being in. I don't know the Stephen King book. I know the TV miniseries of The Stand. I don't know how faithful that is or how that would compare to a film version. I question whether or not it's going to be a thing that needs to have 4 separate films, because if was it released as 4 separate books, or was it one book split into 4 parts or something? I don't know.
Trust me, it needs 4 films because it is one big book.
So there's that much to it. Okay, then fair enough. Then maybe there is enough material there, because I mean, looking at things, you know, The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings and films as we got The Hunger Games in here, you know, this week and such, films being split into multi-parts and such. So yeah, there's a lot of content there for it to actually be split into 4. I don't know if people are actually going to last through the 4, but it would mean that Matthew McConaughey would have to be in each one of them as well. So my guess would be, even though Peter Jackson took it on himself to do all 3 of the Lord of the Rings films back to back, and similar thing with The Hobbit, Josh Boone is going to be doing all 4 of the Stand films back to back to back to back. Yeah. It may be a case of something that they would do and film one actor's scenes all simultaneously or something, and depend. I guess it would depend on settings and where they are and where the actors are available and such. But I can't see that being too impossible to do nowadays, the way they do things. Yeah, but Matthew McConaughey is a very busy actor, so we'll see what's going to happen with that. The UK box office top 10 then. At number 10 is Ouija, which haven't seen this one. Yeah, I knew you hadn't seen this one, and honestly, you don't want to see this one. Even when it comes out on Blu-ray and DVD,
It's just another one of those stupid, typical quiet bang movies, and I'm sick of them. It's sort of like getting to me as much as the shaky cam found footage one, where that was completely overused and dragged into the ground. This quiet bang kind of film is just, it's had its day, and then it just wasn't scary. And number 9 is Fury,
which I've said I really did like. It is another one of David. I keep forgetting his name again. David
Ayer,
yeah. Of his movies that he does. Typically, it's just set in a different genre, different setting. Which is this time, instead of police settings as other films, this is set in World War II. But it has that dialogue and that thing between the characters works, and Brad Pitt's perfectly fine there. Even Shia LaBeouf is perfectly fine in there, and it's good. But then there's bits in it where it doesn't know what it's doing. It feels as if it's stretching things out, and it kind of gets lost in the plot a bit. But it's worth seeing for excellently put together sequences of the battle sequences in the tank and the war scenes, and it is a good but dark and gritty film.
Yeah, just before I go on to the number 8 film, another piece of news that's breaking. This is nice, isn't it, when you get to do a show live and you get breaking news.
I think it's nice because normally it breaks after we finished.
Yeah, but by the looks of things, we reported last week that Christoph Waltz is set to play a bad guy in the next James Bond film. He will be playing Blofeld.
Okay, that is a little bit disappointing, actually.
So, yeah, by the looks of things, he is that. Number 8 is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Which is... It's got Michael Bay's grubby fingerprints all over it. There's things in there you just go, yeah, Michael Bay did that, yeah, tick that off the box, list of stuff, and that's fine. It's entertaining, it's funny, it has moments in it which are a bit creepy due to Michael Bay's influence, I'm certain, but it's not a complete total train wreck as some of the Transformers films are, which he directed. He didn't direct this, it was Jonathan Liebesman directed this, and Jonathan Liebesman is a perfectly competent director, just not so much when he's got Michael Bay standing over his shoulder.
Yep. Number 7 is The Book of Life.
I haven't seen this one either.
I really need you to see this film.
I do want to see it, I just haven't had a chance because it's been busy, and this week, as I say, I'm doing 5 films.
Yeah, well, you can have a break for next week's show then, so make sure you do this. It's sort of like a film critic that we listen to. Yeah, when he's not seen a film, he gets lambasted for not seeing a film. So I'll take the load slightly off your shoulders this week and see the two big films.
Cut me some slack this week. I've seen 5 films.
It was your choice, though, but I'll see the couple of main films for next week as long as you see The Book of Life, because I highly recommend it. I really liked it as an animated film. It's not the best animated film of this year. There has been better films, but because it's got Guillermo del Toro involved in it, slightly biased there, it's got his fingerprints all over the film, and his fingerprints when del Toro is at his best, when he's at his more imaginative best. And I love the fact that it does mix lightheartedness with some of the downright darkness of what life is like, because it is about the land of the dead and death, ultimately. And you do even get some sarcastic quips in the film about the fact that they're children, yet they're getting told a story about death. So there are nice little moments like that, and I just love the animation, the marionette puppet style animation.
I will try and see it, because I do want to see it, and I'm going to try as well see it in 3D if I can, because I think the 3D is starting to get phased out now in the screens for this.
Yeah, and I doubt the screening would be packed anyway, because it's on its way out of the charts, so you'll not be as annoyed with a lot of kids running around. Number 6 is Gone Girl,
which is David Fincher, so of course I absolutely love it. But that's not just because I love his films, it's because it is an absolute piece of genius work. It's fantastically performed by Rosamund Pike especially, but I don't have a problem with Ben Affleck, but I think he's especially good and weird in this. I think that it's a brilliantly written, brilliantly acted, brilliantly directed piece of work. I don't know the book, but I understand that it is very faithful to it because it's written by the writer of the novel as well. And it's got some really good scenes in it that are genuinely quite shocking and oddly funny as well. Considering that it is a 2.5 hour film, it feels it, but I know you have an issue with the last half hour or so of it, where you think it repeats itself unnecessarily, but I think that that's okay. The only thing, as I say, ever since I've seen it, the one thing I would have changed personally is that it does things in a non-chronological order, and I think it tips its hand a lot too early as to show you what's going on and what isn't going on.
Yeah, it's just when it does the non-chronological thing, it's the second half of the film which seems better than the first half of the film with it actually doing that. And so what I also find interesting is the fact that we've still not managed to spoil the last half of the film, because you cannot spoil it, because that's the most important part. And it's interesting also that both Rosamund Pike and Ben Affleck reminded me of one person, reminded me of the psycho Hannibal Lecter in everything that they do, and not just Hannibal Lecter's mannerisms and how he is able to actually change things around just with like the flip of a coin. They could be nice 1 minute, but then they could be nasty the next minute. And it's interesting that two actors in a film is able to actually embody that kind of character. Even if it's just something as simple as forgetting somebody's anniversary right at the start of the film, where Ben Affleck's character does forget the anniversary, but it's just the way they speak to each other.
I'm just going to point out as well, I'm looking at the top 10 list on the website, on mondaymovieshow.co.uk. And I have no idea what's actually at number 5, because it seems it's been missed out of the list.
You would think that I don't have a job every day or anything like that I need to concentrate on the website or whatever.
I was looking at them going, I'm like 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 4. Something's wrong there.
And it also makes me question, why have you only just noticed this now? Do you actually visit the site?
I do, but I glanced through that very quickly earlier, because I'm looking at it as I go through it. I don't actually note it down every week, so...
I do, so... At number 5 is a mystery film. It's a new entry for The Drop.
Ah, okay. This is a film which is a bit odd because of the fact that it's the kind of thing that it shouldn't necessarily, I think, have been given a cinema release. It's not. That's not to say it's bad, because it is very good. It's very well acted. It would be better if it was viewed on home release than on cinema. It's not bad for cinema. It's just you're literally watching it in the cinema and you kind of come out going, did that need to be released in the cinema? And the only reason I can see that it has is because, one, it does have a great performance from Tom Hardy, but not just him. It has the great and possibly the last performance ever from James Gandolfini, which is brilliant in it. But he's not in the film that strongly enough, I think, that it kind of warrants it. There's also Nimue Rapace in it as well. She's perfectly fine, but the problem is Nimue Rapace is playing a role she's played from before, from Dead Man Down. So... it's a perfectly decent thriller. There is some nice twists in it, which I didn't see coming, but they're not obvious twists, and it's not right in your face twists, but it's cleverly written. The only problem is that it's based on a short story, which is about 40 minutes long, I think, and then the rest of it is stretched out with padding, which is the problem. That it's not a full film. It needs more work to it.
At number 4 is Mr. Turner.
Which, talking of padding, unfortunately, as brilliant as this film is, and as greatly acted as it is by I've forgotten his name now,
Timothy Spall.
As greatly as the performance is by him, this film has got plenty of padding. It's got too much. It's 2.5 hours long. It feels very long for that running time. Has moments where it could have easily been stripped down a little bit to make it a bit more I don't want to say mainstream, but it could have been just paced a bit better because of that. And it's a great look at a historic character, who is famous for obviously his painting, but not looking at his painting, looking at the character instead. That's what's really good about it, but it's too long.
At number 3 is a new entry for the Dude Where's My Car sequel, Nativity 3 Dude Where's My Donkey.
Yeah, and that's a joke because of the fact of that when I saw this advertised at my local cinema, a big poster says in it, "Dude, where's my donkey?" Picture of a donkey sticking out of a car, and then underneath it, in tiny little words, Nativity 3. And my heart sank because I was like, oh, they're going to do a sequel to Dude, Where's My Car? I mean, admit it, Dude, Where's My Donkey would be a brilliant sequel. I don't know what would happen in it, but it would be a brilliant sequel to Dude, Where's My Car? No, sorry, instead it's a Nativity sequel. I haven't seen the first one or the second one. From what I hear, though, it's absolutely terrible.
Yeah, it sounds like one of those Mickey take films, yet this is taking itself way too seriously.
Yeah. The only thing I can think that possibly looks just as bad is the one that's coming out, seen advertised, Get Santa.
Yeah, you know what is even worse about that, about Get Santa?
It's got...
No, it's not who's starring in it, it's
No.
who directed it. Christopher Smith, who did Severance, Triangle, Creep. He's the director of Get Santa.
Okay, goes to show that, there is life after horror. And it's Christmas films.
It's not Christmas films. There's a Christmas film then. But it's not Christmas films.
Well, why did he get to do a Christmas horror film? There's not many Christmas horror films.
Yeah, I think, Kat, you're probably going to be on your own with that. She says she wants to see Get Santa.
Okay, then we're maybe getting our first review from my other half scene on the show then.
Yeah, because we're not going to see it.
Yeah.
And number 2 is The Imitation Game. It's a new entry.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. I did see this a while ago, but saw it again recently with my other half. She saw it and absolutely loved it. It's a really sort of great testament to the man, to Alan Turing, but largely so because of the fact it's got a brilliant performance from Benedict Cumberbatch at the centre of it, who is just, if he doesn't get at least a nomination and potentially win Oscar for Best Actor this year, then something's definitely wrong, because he is absolutely superb in this film.
Yeah, he should easily get a nod at the BAFTAs as well. Cause,
I think actually the BAFTAs he's definitely got a chance to win, because obviously it's British and it's more that kind of thing. It's not a British film, it's actually a foreign film, but it's obviously a British historical and a British cast.
Yeah, it's from the director of Headhunters.
Yeah,
who directed The Imitation Game. I can't remember his name, but I completely agree with you on this. Benedict Cumberbatch. If you listen to some interviews with him, the fact that he got speech coaches to learn how to do the speech impediment that Alan Turing had. And it's not just down to Benedict Cumberbatch as well. He's got a really good supporting cast around him. So Keira Knightley, surprisingly, is really good, because the last time she did an accent like this was when she was in A Dangerous Method, when she was just constantly talking through her teeth. And I hated her when she does movies like that. When she does movies like this, it's much better. And I even though she's a sort of like a tough-esque kind of character, she's probably the most down like your level kind of tough. So it's interesting with her. And just, I even cried twice. To be honest, nearly cried twice.
It is an emotional film as well. Yeah, it's quite a draining film, but it's good at putting you in the position of the characters and understanding them more. And I mean, it's not just the whole thing about Enigma and cracking the Enigma code. That's a big part of it, but it's the thing of them, what they had to do afterwards as a result of cracking the code, how it affected them and such. And that was the thing that was, very, very impressive. It didn't just get to that point and stop. It told the whole story.
Yeah, 3 words, the best way to describe it is endearing, poignant, humorous. Because it does have some nice humour in it as well.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
And at number 1 is Interstellar.
Which is probably Christopher Nolan's ode to 2001. It's a film that 2001's not a film that I love, really. I'm not a big fan of it. I think it's very overrated. This, I think, is very good. Has its problems, but it's a very cinematic, effective film, and by that I mean it is a visual and auditory feast to view, and there's more to it. It's got a good story. It's got a story that's out there, and by out there I mean, boy, is it out there. But it's really good to watch, and I've seen it a couple times now, and the second time around I enjoyed it just as much, but I got more from it, because obviously there's things you don't realise necessarily on your first watch of a film. And it's still held up. The story still held up with the things that it has, its weirdness, and there are bizarre things. It kind of has, though, it is kind of a 3 films in one. It's almost 3 hours long, and each hour is slightly sort of a different kind of film. But it is all one story and very, very cleverly put together.
Yeah, I think I had more problems with the film than you did, and I don't think it's going to make my top 10 of the year. I think I have seen 10 films that are better than this. I might give it a mention, but I don't even think that's going to reach that. But It's still a really good film. It just has some problems. The more I started to think about the film after seeing it, the more I started to understand a few of the problems with the movie itself, and it's nowhere near Fincher's best.
Nolan's.
Why was I thinking Fincher? I was still on Gone Girl. It's nowhere near Nolan's best. It is better than Dark Knight Rises, though.
It's different. It's a different film. It
is a different film, but it has footprints. They both have a very similar connection with each other at times, but I think it is better than the Dark Knight Rises. It's not better than Inception. Right, on to this week's new releases then.
What should I mean? The biggest film of the week, undoubtedly, is Hunger Games: Mockingjay Part 1.
Yep.
So if we do that first, obviously take a time on that. This is obviously the third film in the story, but it is the third book, but only part 1 of the third book, which is a split between this and part 2, which will come out next year. Reaches, obviously there will be spoilers for Catching Fire and Hunger Games, the previous films, but the movie starts off with District 12 having been, as we were told at the end of the last film, completely bombarded and destroyed, which is where Katniss's home was. She has been taken to District 13, which has supposedly previously been bombed a long time ago. No one exists there, except the fact that there is a big sort of settlement under the ground, hidden away from the Capitol buildings and such.
I was going to make a joke there, but I'm not going to. I was thinking of a Luc Besson joke there when with District 13, so there's free running.
Yeah, let's not go. Yeah, but she arrives then at District 13. Her family and Kale, her other potential sort of love triangle member, played by Liam Hemsworth, is there. She is suffering through the sort of the post-traumatic details she had previously from the films, but obviously worsened after the situation of the last film. And she is there. After a while sort of recovers and is brought before the leading sort of council of District 13, where the leader of the people is President Al McCoy, played by Julianne Moore, as well as Plutarch Heavensby, I think it is, played by Philip Seymour Hoffman in his one of his last final roles. And the two of them are sort of there, come out to the point of say to her, basically they want to have her be the sort of the PR point of a battle against the Capitol, which is where sort of the President Snow, played by Donald Sutherland, has been in charge and running things and sort of controlling all of the other districts because of the events of the Hunger Games and the whole things with Katniss having been sort of disrupting things and spreading dissension amongst the districts. There is also a PR campaign being run by the other side, with them using Peter, played by I've lost his name now. I can't think of his name. I'll find it in a minute. But we have he is sort of being used as the opposite of her for the Capitol, whereas they want to use Katniss to be their Mockingjay and be their sort of PR campaign. Here's a clip.
This is my assistant, Masala.
It's an honor to meet you.
And your cameraman over there, Castor?
Hello.
And Pollux.
Let's get locked in.
You're all from the Capitol? Plutarch got you out? Don't expect much chit-chat from him. Capitol cut his tongue out years ago. And no, it wasn't any sort of rescue, if that's what you mean. We all fled on our own. For this. For you.
So, here's the thing with the Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1. It is... And as much as I have this issue with the last film, well, let's go back a minute actually and go through what I said about the last film, which was Catching Fire. Catching Fire is the middle film of a trilogy, but then the third part has been split into 3 and 4. And the problem I had with Catching Fire, as I do with a lot of the middle films, is that they have something happen that goes through all that, and then it just ends. It doesn't have an ending because it's all set up for the next film, for the last part. That is kind of a thing in a nutshell, the problem with Mockingjay Part 1. It does have a lot more story to it than the last film. It has a lot more of the political story to it. than the last one. It has less action. It only has sort of a couple of small little action pieces in it. It's not as much filled with action sequences or anything sort of. It doesn't have the games in it as the other two films did. This is all about the whole thing of it being basically a PR battle between District 13 and the Capitol. There are sequences in it where people are there and it's being bombed, for example, and you don't see any of the bombing. There's nothing of that to see. It's all shown in the tension of the people down there underground and what's happening, and you can hear the explosions above you. And it's good sound. It's got a really good sound mix to it for that. And it all is based on the performances and the actors, their performances in the film, because you have got the good cast there. I mean, Jennifer Lawrence is absolutely brilliant there. Josh Hutcherson, who is Peter, whose name I couldn't think of there, he is perfectly good he's not given a lot to do for the majority of the film. Liam Hemsworth is given a big chance to do a lot more in this one. His character is a lot more front and centre than Peter's character. Gale is a lot more centre of it. Woody Harrelson is in there, but again in a smaller role as Hamish Abernathy. And you have Effie Elizabeth Banks returning, probably in the most characters she's ever had of all three films so far in this one as well. Added to that as well, you've got Julianne Moore as the President Al McCoy, who I don't necessarily think she's the greatest person they could have cast for it. I don't necessarily think she works, but I guess that will be down to how we see part 2 of this works out. The one thing I will say as well, it's a shorter film. It's at least 15-20 minutes shorter than the previous two films, which ran in about 2 hours 20 minutes. This comes in just over 2 hours. It has good performances and great performances, which keep it solid throughout, but I do think that it's definitely lacking. It is for me the weakest of the three films so far. I hope that it's just because it's setting up more of the Mockingjay Part 2. But I have this problem with it. I think that they obviously they split this up so they could get more money out of releasing 2 more films than just the one. I think that has affected the film. I think that the film has been damaged because of that, and I don't think it's as good because of that, and I don't think it will be anywhere near as good until we see what part 2's like and whether or not the two of them work if you were to watch them together, because I think it should have been made into maybe a 3-hour film for both parts together, because it does feel as if it's been padded out to make 2 hours, and that's not good.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you in the fact that this is the weakest out of the three, but there was no way that this was going to be the strongest out of the three as well, because the fact that if you've read the book, I've not read the book, but understanding what people have said about after reading the book, it is the weakest book out of them all. And taking the weakest book out of a series and splitting it into 2 films is not a smart idea to do. I know it's the trend now. They did that with the Harry Potter series, and they've done it with multiple series. And so ending it the way they are doing it's making it feel like Twilight rather than what it should be, because from what I understand also, this is not me harking on to the Twilight series, but the Twilight series suffered exactly the same problem. The fact that in part 1 of the final Twilight 2-parter, it was weak and nothing happened until you got into the second film.
Yes.
So, and Harry Potter is exactly the same, because in Harry Potter, it was just a camping trip of them trying to find just a few little items to go up against Voldemort, and then all the action happened in the second part of the film. And that's the same with this. It's a much more maligned film, and it centers more on the politics that's happening. But the problem is there isn't enough politics to stretch it through a film to keep the attention of the audience that you're trying to make the film for. Because this is for a teenage audience, and how many members of the audience who's going to be sitting in watching the film have read the book? Because there is going to be some people in that audience there who've read the book, but a lot of the people in that audience are going to be people who've come from watching the other 2 previous films, and so they're going to expect something very similar to the first 2 parts in the Hunger Games 4 films.
It is a very big departure from the previous films. It is very much different, its own thing.
Yeah, you're going to alienate that lot, because this film here is mainly about all the politics and the fact that it's one campaign against the other. It reminds you of what a party political broadcaster is like, because it's trying to them just justify what they're doing is the right thing for everybody in here. So with the Capitol, they think that we're going to make ourselves look like the major bad guys in this, but seeing that we are the beating heart of everything, and we need everybody around us to keep the beating heart going, and expecting people to go, well, yeah, I think that's how we should be run because it's worked for us in the past, so why don't we do that? And then you've got the other side from District 13 saying, no, we've had enough of this. We've had enough of the tyrannical reign by Donald Sutherland's character, President Snow, and we need something different. And the problem with the film is it does that too many times. It becomes so repetitive that you just get bored. The film itself is on for just over 2 hours, and it feels much longer because with the other two previous movies, you've got the split. The first section of the film is normally about the lead up to the battle in the Hunger Games itself, and then you've got the Hunger Games section to relieve you from the Rocky montage training things. Whereas this one, you have none of that. You have repetitive scenes about them thinking, oh, what's the best way for us to shoot this political message video that we're going to stream to everybody, but we'll have to underline it with a little bit in it, saying that that Katniss wants Peter back and the love is still there with it. And we still need the third element of the love triangle that's supposed to have fed throughout the film, even though you can see it's fractured beyond belief. So it's just, even the side characters, everything from Effie, who I really liked in the second film because I thought she came on leaps and bounds in the second film. They've stripped everything away from her, and Elizabeth Banks does the best she can with the character, and she interjects the film with humour, so that takes you out of the boredom of the politics. And so I think it's the weakest out of the three by a long shot, and it got me bored. I was more interested in the popcorn tub that I was eating popcorn from than I was in the film, and I was waiting for this film to end, and I'm hoping that it's not a sign that the last part 2, is going to absolutely kick it up the bottom, because that's what it needs.
I think the problem is with it that it feels as if, because there is this whole thing of the political side of it, which is perfectly fine that you can do a good political sort of thriller element of a film at a 12 rating, and it won't be necessarily a boring film. But I think that because it kind of feels as if they've not really gone it full pelt. They could have done a lot more political stuff. They could have done a lot more of the whole thing of why they're filming it that way, how they could have done a lot more about the sort of the manipulation of the media sort of thing of it, side of it, and they didn't really. They just touched upon it. And I think they were afraid of going into that more because they thought they would be worried about losing the younger audience that have maybe come to expect what they expect with the Hunger Games films. And I wish they'd gone into that full pelt a lot more harder than they did, because I think that would have then made up the fact that it doesn't have the games of the previous films. And so I think they kind of decided they were going to go along this route, but then they stepped back from it thinking, hang on, if we go too far we're going to lose people. And as far as I'm concerned, that's what's losing them. That's what they've lost in it. They haven't got a full on, going in this direction. They're trying to go everywhere, and that's where they kind of diluted it.
It's fine, understandable with what they've done with Katniss in the movie, how broken she is from the last Hunger Games. The fact that she's had to do 2. She's had to do the first one where she's trained up and become the sort of like the start of the person who it looked like she is the model of what's going to happen. And then the second part, she was part of the Quarter Quell straight after what she did with the Hunger Games. And so it was understandable that a character was broken. We don't need to see her broken multiple times, though. It's just, we get it the first time, we get it the second time. The fifth time, it just becomes us going, will you stop moping around and just get on with it?
Talking of getting on with it, I'll go on to the next film, which, what do you think? I'll do Get On Up next, which is the James Brown biopic. Now, I went into this completely I'm not a massive fan of James Brown music. I know it, obviously, you can't not know James Brown's music, but it's not my kind of thing. But it is a sort of biopic which follows him, oddly enough, starting out at the very beginning with a couple of scenes that are oddly disjointed, where it starts out with him later in his life where he walks into a place that he owns this building. There's a sort of co-joined building next door which has got a sort of a seminar going on, that someone has gone in and used the bathroom, which is kind of like his private bathroom. He walks in there with a shotgun, holds the place up and accidentally shoots a hole in the roof, sort of thing. and it's got this weird sort of comedy and bizarre. This is the kind of man James Brown was, in a bizarrely entertaining, but kind of, is this for real? Was he really this kind of loopy sort of thing? Then it goes on to going back to a couple of times where it switches back and forth between when he was younger and he grew up in a sort of a hut with his mother and his father, who was away a lot of the time. His father comes back, his mother ends up leaving him, walking out on him. Years later, obviously, he then, after being a stint in jail, gets sort of connected to a friend with his family and meets Bobby Bird, who he sort of joins up with into a group, the Flames. I can't remember what it's called, the famous Flames. And then eventually ends up, as a result of that, meeting some people, including a sort of record producer played by Dan Aykroyd, who takes him on to be, he is James Brown, the solo artist. And it's a film that follows through different parts of his life, but also cuts back and forth to show when something happens, you see why that happens and what he's thinking at that time, because it cuts back to earlier in his life, which is the moment that sort of influences his decision at that point. Here's a clip.
Hit it! Put it! Right, I need that pop, day up, pop, but day up from the top, day up, pop, but day up from the top. Understand? The drop before the beat. You dig it?
What's it mean, the top of the bar?
It means on a downbeat.
All right.
Mr. Brown,
Yes, Messiah.
we rehearsed it just like you told us. We got it just like you like it. Jimmy can't play that with the part he's got. We can change the part if you like.
Don't change it. Did I say change the part? Huh? Fellas, does it sound good?
Yeah.
Does it feel good? Yeah. God made your ears. You didn't make them. You gonna argue with God's ears? If it sound good and it feel good, then it's musical. So play it like I say play it.
It is directed by Tate Taylor, who also directed The Help, which was a film that focused a lot more on character than anything else. And as much as that was based on a book, this is obviously based on the real life. It's based on the book about James Brown, but a lot more influenced by sort of pop culture and what we know about James Brown. And it's directed with that same focus on the character, because it doesn't necessarily look at everything. There are scenes in it that happen. There's obviously we know of the fact that there was a argumentative and a little bit slightly violent relationship with James Brown and his wife in later years, which is literally just touched upon in one scene, almost, and I don't mean this to sound as bad as it does, but almost comically, in that it's done, it's sort of a background thing, and then the character walks forward, and even in as it does in a lot of scenes, looks directly at the camera and even occasionally talks to the camera, and it's these moments that kind of go. It's kind of like you're going through it, you're looking through it, and you're going, there's more to this. Why am I not seeing more of this? I kind of wish it had been more investigative and more investigative and looking into the things that happen with the character, which we didn't see. There's a great scene at the beginning where you see him on a plane flying to do a USO show in Vietnam during the war. And the plane's being shot at, and everyone else is on board is either terrified they're going to get shot down or feeling airsick and such. He's walking around. He goes up to the pilot and he's saying, this plane ain't going to get shot down because James Brown ain't going to get shot down. And he's so confident in that. And there's moments like that are brilliant. And it's through this performance by Chadwick Boseman playing James Brown, who's absolutely brilliant. I absolutely loved him in this, and I don't know him from anything else. If I do, I didn't recognise him. And he is just absolutely brilliant, as he is the kind of the one thing that holds this film together. That's not saying it's a bad film, because it's not a bad film. It is a very, very good film, and a film that I was not ready for, honestly, or expecting to be anywhere near as fun and entertaining as it is. And the thing that kind of does bother me so much about it is the very opening. It starts out with that bizarre, strange sequence, which is comical, even though you don't know whether it's trying to be comical or whether it's trying to just go, this is James Brown, he was a bit loopy at times with what he did, deal with it. And I kind of wish it had either decided to stick with that mood and go through that all the way through it, or to basically not have that at the start and have it be, because the rest of the film is a lot more serious and solid and a lot more normal character sort of thing. It doesn't have so many of these loopy moments in it. But that is really the only problem that I have with it. I enjoyed it immensely through all the performances, all the scenes. There are some scenes in it which are quite sort of, not heartbreaking, but they're quite sort of tender. And it's great as well to see Dan Aykroyd playing a serious part again, not playing a role that's there just in a stupid comedy unnecessarily. And it is a film that's got a great performance in there. You've got Nelson Ellis plays Bobby Bird, who is absolutely brilliant there. Viola Davis is playing in there as well. And it is... I don't know the character. I don't know James Brown that well. I don't know the past and such. But it is a film that I found to be possibly one of the most surprisingly entertaining films I've ever seen in quite a while. About someone who I've never been interested in before. And... possibly the only thing I can think of that did that entertained me about a person, a real life person that I'd never seen before was Senna, the documentary. This isn't a documentary. This is a dramatic sort of telling of James Brown, and I'm perfectly fine with that. But I kind of wish there had been more investigativeness done, in more looking beneath the surface than there is in it.
It's again. We talked about this last week, didn't we? When we were, I can't remember what film it was when we were reviewing it. And over the last, I would say, year, we've had films which has been based on a person's life. And it was when we were actually reviewing The Imitation Game, actually, when we were saying that Benedict Cumberbatch managed to embody the character of Alan Turing, but we see different elements of his life because of the fact that the way the film is handled. It seems that this one is landing more in the category of films like Mandela: A Long Walk to Freedom or Hitchcock, and the fact that the sides of his life we know about, we're not fully interested in seeing that part. We want to know about the sides of his life we didn't know about more.
But the thing is that I would say that's different. I mean, Mandela's a perfect example of where I had issues, because there are films that are based on obviously a real person and the history and such. Mandela's a great example of that, where it's a film that's got a great performance. It is a dramatic film, but that in that case, Mandela ended up trying to be more of a documentary than it did being a drama about the character. This, though, gets it right, in the balance right, in that it's showing events that happen. There are moments in it that are critical points that are known. I didn't know them, but there are critical points that are known in James Brown's life, that are public things. And they're shown in the film, but not shown as a documentary. They're shown as a drama, as what's happened there. And that's what this gets so right. This knows the boundary between drama and documentary. A lot of the films that try and do this don't get that balance right, don't know that line, and they try and do both and end up doing neither. This doesn't do that. This doesn't try and do both. It does a drama, and it stays to the drama, and it does it well. I just wish there had been more. I wish we'd seen more. As I say, it glimpses these things. As I say, there's a moment. Basically, the scene in question is him and his wife walk in arguing. They walk in around the corner, out of view of the camera, and you hear the sound of a slap, and then you see his wife fall into frame and hit a table. And then he walks towards the camera, just stands there for a second, and they're kind of like, you know, this is the thing that happened, but I ain't going to go into it, sort of thing. And I kind of was like, so it's kind of like we're being told, you know, the public story. It's kind of like going back to Hunger Games, about sort of the PR of James Brown, and that is the one thing I don't like about it. I would have liked to have seen more of the, you know, the grittiness of what was James Brown, not just the PR side of James Brown.
Right, 3 films left to do. Let's steamroll slightly more through the 3 films, because we've been here for quite a while and we've still got a home release section to do with 2 huge, massive movies in there. So, what's next?
Let's do The Homesman, which is the latest acting and directorial movie from Tommy Lee Jones. It's based on the novel of the same name, which was released in the 80s. It stars Hilary Swank as Mary B. Cuddy, a woman who lives on the frontier. She is a single woman who lives on her own, doesn't have any family there. She's not got a husband or anyone potentially that's sort of a suitor for her. There are people that she sort of hints at and suggests with particular one person that she would like to marry and such, but the person is not interested in her because of the fact that she's not particularly feminine, and she's particularly sort of strong-handed, and she ends up sort of meeting with a group of people in the church because of the fact of this being the frontier. There are a lot of things going on that some people are having particularly hard lives. In particular, 3 women who are wives of some, or a woman who's sort of a sister of someone else, have all sort of kind of lost their minds through different situations. Because this being the frontier, there's no one there that can really care for them. What's going to happen is there's going to have to be a homesman elected to travel and take them back across the river to civilization. She being sort of a single woman and not involved in that world of men, she ends up sort of saying, okay, I will do this because of the fact none of the men there can sort of be trusted to do it, or is willing to do it. Ultimately, as she starts this journey with these 3 women, she then comes across a character played by Tommy Lee Jones, who, when she runs into him, finds him hung up on a noose, sitting on a horse, ready basically to die, and she rescues him and makes a deal with him that he will come along with her on this rather perilous journey. Here's a clip.
What's your job?
3 women in this country have lost their minds. Their husbands can't care for them properly. You and I are going to take them back across the river to Iowa.
The Missouri River?
We leave tomorrow.
Hell, that's 5 goddamn weeks from here.
I will not sit still for profanity in my house.
I can see why you're single.
I need someone who can hunt and guide and spell me at the reins and help with the animals on the trip. That's why I set you free. It's your job, and you've sworn to do it.
3 crazy women for 5 weeks is a lot more than I bargained for.
If you lied to me and intend on abandoning your responsibility, then you are a man of low character. More disgusting pig than honorable man.
Thank you for the kind words, sister. You're no prize yourself. You're plain as an old tin pail and you're bossy. But I'll sit out with you because I said I would.
So here's the thing: the Homesman has been said by some to be the best Western since Unforgiven. It's not. That would actually be Open Range as far as I'm concerned. But the thing is, it's okay for the start of, but the problem I have with it is there's this big lull in the middle once they set out on the journey. That kind of has its moments where there are things that do happen which kind of perk up a little bit every now and again, but they're just, it has moments in it which are just exhaustingly average, and it shouldn't be. It should be better, and I don't have a problem with it, the direction of it. I have a problem with the story, which may be down to the book, I don't know, and the original story, but things like that sometimes have to be changed in order for a book to make a good adaptation. So it may be the book, it may be the adaptation, it may be just the story as it's been written in the script, which Tom Lee Jones admittedly did have a hand in the screenplay. I don't think it's a terrible film, but I just didn't find it especially brilliant, and I didn't mind the beginning part, I didn't mind the end part. I just found the middle had this lull which went on far too long, and with moments that were far too uneventful, and things that happened in it which honestly I found kind of, not shocking, but I was kind of like, didn't see that coming, didn't feel right. Things in it felt a bit forced at times. So I don't think it's narratively the best Western that there's ever been, especially recently, and I'm a little disappointed with it. As I say, not bad, not terrible, just not anything above average.
2 films left, one strange vampire mockumentary and one film starring Idris Elba.
What do you think?
Good duo to end it on, eh? What, I get to choose this one?
Yeah,
I'm interested to hear about What We Do in the Shadows, but let's do the Idris Elba film first and we'll end off with What We Do in the Shadows.
Okay, No Good Deed then, which is directed by Sam Miller. It is basically a almost straight to video movie which got a cinema release for some reason, probably because it's got Idris Elba in it. Because as one of those things, you've got to admit, Idris Elba is a screen presence. He is a great British actor, and you admit it, you would go and see him in almost anything. And if you're a fan of Luther like me, he's a really good actor. The thing here in this, he's playing a guy who, at the start of the film, we find out he's been in prison, he's up for parole, doesn't get parole, escapes on the journey back, and ends up sort of running around and finding himself at the door of the house played by the House of Terry, played by Tarija P. Henson. He sort of is playing this sort of little cat and mouse game with her and a friend of hers played by Leslie Bibb who turns up as well. And it is one of these kind of typical things of, you know, a woman opens the door, there's a guy there, he's being all nice and everything, saying, "Crashed my car, I need to use a phone please, can I do that? And don't mind, I'll stay out here and I'll use it, you know, I don't need to come in." And then things go and you're going, okay, you're doing that, why are you doing that? And it then gets to this thing of, you know, list of all the bad things you could do, the wrong things, don't do that, do this, you know. And there are moments in it where it's kind of like that, but the thing is, oddly enough, it's not as frustrating as a lot of those films do that, where you got the, you know, the stupid bimbo that runs up the stairs when she should be going another way or something. It does have little moments like that, but you're not screaming at it going, why are you doing that? You're kind of sitting there going, okay, I can understand why you're doing that because something else happened or because it led to that. And it's kind of, it actually is fairly well, I mean, it's predictable, but it's fairly well predictable in the fact of that it manages to cross off everything before it goes to there. So it's like you know what's going to happen because of the fact of that it reaches the point where only that can happen, not just because of the fact of that, oh, this needs to happen so we can get to this. And that was what I liked about it. It's not brilliant. It is a B-grade movie. It didn't need to be released in the cinema. It would actually have come across better on DVD, I think, than it does in the cinema. It's not big screen. It's not big sound. It doesn't need it. It is mostly the majority of it set in a house and very well executed and directed and put across like that. It just needlessly put up on the big screen because of the cast. It's again like The Drop, where I think it would have been better just released on DVD or download, and that would have been the end of it, and I wouldn't have thought anything less of that.
The thing is, though, with The Drop is it's probably got a bigger cast than No Good Deed, because the fact that No Good Deed has only got Idris Elba. From what I've heard also is that this film looks like it was shot a few years ago and probably just hung on the shelf or something like that. Did it actually feel like that?
It did feel. It didn't feel particularly recent. I mean, but there's nothing in it that it feels dated. There's no point in it you think, you know, oh, that's obviously, you know, a couple of years old, or it was above average for this kind of film. It's just not. I regretted seeing it at the cinema because of the fact of that. I know I would have enjoyed it more seeing it for the first time at home on a night watching it on DVD.
Yeah, it looks like that. It does look like a home release film rather than a cinema release. Your final film. Okay,
What We Do in the Shadows, which is the spoof comedy directed by Jermaine Clement and Taika Waititi. Waititi? I hate names like that, sorry.
That sounds like a joke that Beavis and Butthead would make.
Yeah, okay, we're not going there though. It is a spoof documentary, kind of in the style of Spinal Tap. This is Spinal Tap, but this one, instead of being about musicians, is about vampires. So, well, very similar actually, you know, kind of thing. No, you've got the group of these three characters, Vladislav, Viago and Deacon, sort of the main three people in the house, along with Peter, who lives in the basement, who is a very old 800-year-old vampire, so much so that he looks like the typical Nosferatu style. The four of them sort of live in this house. Cameron had been invited in with, it says, there's a pop-up at the screen that says, you know, people were invited to this thing, they were given a promise they would not be eaten. So there's sort of puns and humour in it from the very start out. They're there to be filmed in documentary style, show their lives, and amongst other nights they meet up with Nick, a recently made vampire only a couple of weeks ago, who's kind of become their sort of guide to going out so they can find fresh victims, when in particular on one night they go out and run into a bunch of werewolves. Here's a clip.
I can smell werewolves.
We're just about to walk past a werewolf, so some might go down.
Look out, guys. Don't catch fleas. What's that, mate? Sorry, what?
Keep going, keep walking,
What?
keep
We heard
walking.
that, mate. We've got sensitive hearing. Have you? Yeah. What are you filming? It's a music video, is it?
We don't want any trouble.
Well, I do. Why did you start it? Have I got your heckles up, huh? Why don't you girls smell your own crotches, huh?
Come on. What are you talking about? We don't smell our own crotches. We smell each other's crotches, and it's a form of greeting.
You're on camera,
Yeah.
mate. Don't do
What?
it.
It's okay, because I know this guy. It's Count Fagula.
Hey, don't swear.
Sorry,
Yeah,
we're
we're werewolves.
Not swear.
What are we?
Werewolves, not swearwolves.
No, it's
It's a very offensive word to call people.
Well, unless you're talking about a bundle of sticks. Taste this bundle of sticks. Werewolves?
Don't get it. It's not real.
Nathan, it's not.
The joke of that one being that they've pretended to throw a stick and one of the werewolves has instinctively just run after it. And that's the kind of thing. It's this kind of a lot of physical humour like that in it that does make it funny and does make you laugh out. There's people, when I saw it in the cinema, there were people who were absolutely cracking up at some of the jokes, bursting out, big gut-busting burst out laughs. I didn't have so many bursting out laughs or that, but I did laugh a fair bit in it, and I'd say it is up to, if not passing, the 6 laugh test of needing to have 6 laughs throughout it. It's enjoyable, it's funny. It's by the same people who did, amongst other things, Flight of the Conchords, which I don't know, but I'm guessing it's probably a similar kind of comedy, and I'm guessing that's why the other people maybe enjoyed it more, because they know that, and it's that predictable sort of type of comedy they like. I didn't think it's bad. I thought it was, though, a bit of a missed opportunity on occasion. There are parts in it when I was thinking, that you could have inserted a good gag here, you could have done more there. And it doesn't look like a terrible thing, because it's nicely done. There are moments in it where there's things like they fly, and there's scenes where they turn into bats, and there's scenes that are particularly sort of bloody and graphic to the point of very, very almost Tarantino humour of blood everywhere, and he's standing there covered in blood, and it's funny because of that. And it's got a good sense of humour about it, and it is stupid in that kind of Spinal Tap way, but oddly engrossing and enjoyable for a film that as well that only runs for about an hour and a half. It's not a long film, so it's an enjoyable, weird, bizarre film that most, I think, will at least like. Some will really love it. Maybe some who, if you're not into sort of spoofs or you don't like sort of fake documentary sort of things, you won't like it. But I think majority of everyone else will find something in it they'll enjoy.
Is it another one of those films, though, that is strange to see it in the cinema and probably would work better if you were with a group of mates at home?
Yes and no, I would say, because the thing about it is that on the small screen, it will probably feel a lot more like it's a real sort of spoof thing than it being a spoof film. It's odd to say that, but it'll sound, I think on a small screen, it will come across more like a real documentary than a spoof. In that case, in the cinema, I think it plays to an audience. It doesn't play so well, I think, on just a small screen.
In that case, then, when you do get to see it in home release, will it feel like a different film then, or will it feel like you've seen sort of like two sides of the one coin with the film itself? You'll notice stuff differently when you watch it at home compared to what you'll see in the cinema, because like you said, when you see it in the cinema, it feels like one of those films where it's probably best to watch with a big audience, but when you see it at home, you'll see more of the mockumentary in it.
Possibly, so, you'd appreciate it more for the skill that's gone into making it like a documentary rather than the jokes of the documentary. It would be more that at home. In the cinema, I think you're definitely going to get a lot more of the jokes of the documentary than the style of it.
We'll see. There was no cinemas very close to me that was showing it anyway, so there was no way I was able to get to see it. But we'll see what it's like when it gets released, home release wise. And my guess would be
very rare for the cinema near me to actually be showing all the films this week, which is odd.
Yeah, my guess would be that it's probably not going to be in the cinema very long, and we'll probably see it on Blu-ray and DVD early next year, in January probably.
I'll be surprised, but I'll be pleased for it if it does make it actually into the top 10. I don't know
it's
how
not
well
going
it's done.
to.
I don't think it will, but I wouldn't go, well, what's this doing in the top 10? I would actually go, well done for getting in the top 10. But I have doubts that it will get in there. It may get in the top 15, but I don't know.
My guess is it's probably not been shown on more than 50 screens. That would be my guess. So there's no way. The only kind of films that get into the top 10 shown on fewer screens like that are Bollywood movies. So there is. I don't think we'll see it in there. It might struggle even to get in the top 15 by the sound of things, because it is that niche kind of film. It is that kind of film that you need to know about it to understand it.
And it is a 15 as well. It's not a 12 or anything. So it's not. It's got obviously a limited audience that can see it.
Well, considering that there was a bleep in the clip that you played, it gives an indication that it would be a 15 at least. Because if it was a 12 here, then there was something seriously wrong with it. It was sort of like them doing a mockumentary on Twilight. If that was the case. But that's it for the cinema release section. We will be back in a moment where I take over the show, even though I was hosting this section, because I will be reviewing the films in the home release section.
From page to screen.
So they have 9 times out of 10 they have to send it back to you unopened or just throw it in the garbage can.
Things don't always look exactly as we envision our life to look. But sometimes it works out and turns out even better.
Gregor Fisher, his bacon number is 2 because he was appeared with January Jones in Love Actually, and January Jones and Kevin Bacon appeared in X-Men First Class together.
I've got to say, the very Harold and Kumar 3D Christmas, now that just makes me want to rush out.
It's about the acting, about the writing. That's really what theatre is for me.
Probably had more names than Prince or whatever. Never mind, there's a joke for the oldies. It'd be like, who's Prince? Who's he? I'd just like to see Mr. Freeze hiring his bad guys going, right, okay, so you're a psycho, right, can you ice skate? Head over to iTunes, Spreaker and Stitcher and put in the search box From Page to Screen.
And we're back with this week's Monday Movie Show DVD and Blu-ray home release section, which is a little bit sort of, not a lot going on this week. What's out this week, Stuart?
Well, that's nice, considering that you've just reviewed 5 films, and then I get the section where there's not very much going on. Considering that,
let's say not a lot going on, but very big things going on.
Yeah, considering that the box office takings of the 2 big films that I'm reviewing now was probably very close to $1.5 billion, $2 billion worldwide, compared to The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1, which, it opened up in the US at number 1 with $125 million, but it's the weakest out of the 3. So I've just given you an indication of what I'm looking at, which is Guardians of the Galaxy, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and I finally get to sink my teeth into a manga film on this show, which is Bayonetta Bloody Fate.
That's Bloody Fate is actually in the title. It's not just Stuart sort of going off on one. Yeah. Before that, though, let's go on to DVD and Blu-ray top 10, starting at number 10 with the TV series Downton Abbey Series 5.
I've never seen a single episode of Downton Abbey. It looks so boring. The kind of thing that your parents made you watch when you were a kid.
I'm not a fan of it either. I don't watch it, to be honest, either. Number 9 is Maleficent.
Yeah, we've gone on about Maleficent week in, week out. Hopefully this should be the last week we'll see it in the top 10, considering that there was a lot of films released last week and we're expecting the top 10 to have a completely different look. But this film's managed to stay there. It's average at best.
Number 8 is The Fault in Our Stars,
which I really, really liked, apart from the middle section. But you liked the middle section because you thought it fitted in with the film.
I didn't necessarily like. I agree that it's kind of like it feels that it shouldn't be there, but because there's a lot happens there, if it had been taken out, it wouldn't have been as good a film, I think.
Yeah, but I really liked it. I did cry a couple of times because it does get very emotional, and I think Shailene Woodley, she is a really, really good actress. So is Ansel Elgort as an actor. He's definitely got some, like, he's definitely going to be big. So is Shailene Woodley. She is in Divergent. Both of them are going to be in the sequel as well. Yeah. So.
Well, he's in the new upcoming one, Men, Women and Children, which does look intriguing, sort of interesting.
Yeah, and we've already talked about Joss Byrne, the person who directed this. He's going on to do The Stand as well, so I'm interested to see what he does. So it's brought some good actors and directors up into the forefront.
At number 7 is Mrs. Brown's Boys, the movie.
Awful film. What did you expect? You weren't going to get brilliance. You knew that you were going to get horrendousness, and that's exactly what we did get. It's bad.
Coming into number 6, and now we're starting to get the sign of the first lot of Christmas DVDs being released. We've got Lee Evans' Monsters Live.
Can't stand him. I just cannot stand Lee Evans.
He has just announced he's retiring though from doing stand-up.
Good. I just can't. I don't see what is funny about a guy flopping around on stage for 2 hours, looking like a complete moron and sweating. It's just not funny.
Okay, at number 5 is X-Men: Days of Future Past,
which, despite its convoluted story, because it does try to weave in a lot of things and tries to confuse a lot of people with its timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly set pieces, it's
don't reference Doctor Who. I know it's time travel, but no.
Yeah, I just said timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly. I didn't say what it was from. You were the one who's just gone and ruined that there, but Yeah, it's Bryan Singer, even though when people heard that he was coming back to do another X-Men film, you just got gasps going, oh God, he's going to ruin the series again. But he didn't. And I think Quicksilver completely blows everybody out of the water, because the set pieces that he does, especially in the kitchen scene, that slow motion, is the best piece of slow motion I've seen since The Matrix.
And then they went and showed it on the DVD release video as well, the release advert.
Yeah, to take your best thing and absolutely run it into the ground is not a good idea, but it's still an entertaining film. It's not going to make me go out and rush and buy it, because I don't own it on Blu-ray and DVD yet, but it might just be one of those things that if I got bought for us, I'll go, oh, fine, thank you.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind getting it. I want to get it, but I think I'll wait on it.
I think it's on the 2 for £20 in the 3-letter shop.
Really?
Yes, because they've got DVD, a lot of
the Blu-ray.
The DVD. They've got a lot of the new releases, including the film the film Next on their 2 for £20.
Okay, I'll have to look at that. But if it's just DVDs, probably I don't think it'll be a Blu-ray. It'll probably be the more price for that. Number 4 though, new entry for 22 Jump Street,
which is lower than I was hoping it to be, because I love 22 Jump Street. It is really, really funny, and that's coming from me. This passed the 4 laughs test in my scale anyway in the first 10 minutes, and it obliterated it. It got into like 12, 13, 14 laughs, and so sometimes not just like the basic sniggers that I sound like I do, and I sound like Muttley in the cinema when I go to see a comedy, but actually laughing out loud. I did laugh out loud twice in the film, and that's just that shows you that it's a big, massive hit, because both Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill just work together brilliantly. They feed off each other fantastically, and Phil Lord and Christopher Miller know how to do a comedy movie. They know where to find the line. They don't go overly into gross out territory, even though there's hints of gross out. They know where the line is, and they get it spot on.
Still hanging around in the top 3, and number 3 is Frozen.
Yeah, prepare for it to be in there even longer, because it's slightly cheaper now. It's around about £7. Plus, released today is the sing-along version. Don't know why, when you could just easily stick subtitles on when you're watching the standard version. So the sing-along version is £3 more, and it's got a picture of Olaf on the front cover. It's only Olaf on the front cover, so you know it's going to sell by the bucket load just from Olaf alone.
So we're going to have the sing-along in the top 10 next week, do you think?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, new entries in number 1 and number 2. Number 2 being How to Train Your Dragon 2.
This is my favourite animated film of the year. Even though I've seen a couple of Studio Ghibli films, I try to actually not be as overly biased. I think How to Train Your Dragon 2 is the best animated film of the year, because not only is the animation beautiful, and the way they actually just give every single dragon their own personality, but because the way the story is handled, how mature the story is, and just like with the Book of Life, how it's able to mix darkness with light, and how it gets the balance perfect. And so there's some big set pieces in the film, there's some humour in the film, but it's not reliant on the humour. It doesn't instantly stereotype one of the characters and go, you're going to be the humour element of it. A couple of the dragons has some proper humour to it, and the humans as well. So it's more like one of the films that what I'm going to review a little bit later on. It's more like Dawn of the Planet of the Apes in a way, because it gives personality to both dragons and humans.
Which means that the number 1 movie on DVD and Blu-ray in the UK this week, it was kind of to be expected, but disappointing that it is, Transformers Age of Extinction.
Yeah, prepare next week for Frozen sing-along version to be number 1, because Kat has bought a few copies of it.
Yeah, I saw that. I know she's buying that for a Christmas present, so... Yeah.
Yeah, back to Transformers Age of Extinction. It's not as bad as the last 2 films, but again, this is a series that bored the hell out of me after the first movie. It's Michael Bay just... He doesn't have Megan Fox to leer over, but he does have a scarily 17-year-old girl to leer over in the film, and he makes sure he uses that a few times. You don't have the stupid characters of a huge, massive robot with dangling testicles, so it never goes that far. But you have...
I do actually remember that, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what he was thinking there, but
embarrassing, really.
You do have set pieces which should not be in the film or drag along, specifically the middle section, which reminds you of like Battle Los Angeles mixed with Flight of the Navigator and add a bit of other science fiction films just set on a spaceship. Battleship, and it's just, there's elements in that film which just should not be there. And it feels like a 30-minute movie stretched beyond belief, so much so that it's crying with pain.
Okay, so I will just now hand things over to you, let you go through your first movie of the week.
Yep, which is, I'm going to do Bayonetta. I'm kidding. No. Guardians of the Galaxy, which is probably, in my opinion, the biggest film of the year, blockbuster-wise anyway, because during the summer holidays, during the summer months, we get a deluge of huge, massive films. And it felt like it was going to be another one of those years where the big blockbusters were going to be non-intelligent, big, flashy, and boring. But the two films that I'll be reviewing never fell into that category, especially Guardians of the Galaxy. It's directed by James Gunn, and it was brave for Marvel to actually bring James Gunn on to... You might as well say Guardians of the Galaxy is the runt of the Marvel litter, because it is a series that people didn't have any expectations for. They thought that it was doomed. But he handles it with such aplomb, and the opening of the film is set in 1988, and we see a young Peter Quill and his mum especially, she's on her deathbed and she dies, and then he gets abducted by aliens, and it flashes forward to 2014 where he's now known as Star-Lord, and the first outing that we see him in, he's landed on this desolated planet where he discovers this globe, this sphere, and then these bounty hunters come down and they want this sphere for the ultimate bad guy in Run, and so they want the sphere there because there's something powerful about the sphere, but Star-Lord knows that it's worth a lot of money, so he manages to escape the clutches of that. He heads off back to where he is going to sell the sphere, and on this planet you have got a multitude of characters in Groot and Rocket Raccoon. They're after Peter Quill and Star-Lord, and also Zoe Saldana's Gamora. She's after practically all of them, and a fight ensues where they get arrested and thrown into prison. And they have to come up with a plan to try and get out of prison. And Rocket has a good idea. Here's a clip.
If we're going to get out of here, we're going to need to get into that watchtower. And to do that, I'm going to need a few things. The guards wear security bands to control their ins and outs. I need one.
Leave it to me.
That dude there. I need his prosthetic leg.
His leg?
Yeah. God knows I don't need the rest of him. Look at him, he's useless.
All right.
And finally, on the wall back there is a black panel. Blinky yellow light. You see it?
Yeah.
There's a Quarnix battery behind it. Purplish box, green wires. To get into that watchtower, I definitely need it.
How are we supposed to do that?
Well, supposedly these bald bodies find you attractive, so maybe you can work out some sort of trade.
You must be joking.
No, I really heard they find you attractive.
Look, it's 20 feet up in the air, and it's in the middle of the most heavily guarded part of the prison. It's impossible to get up there without being seen.
I got one plan, and that plan requires a frickin' Quarnix battery, so figure it out! Can I get back to it? Thanks. Now, this is important. Once the battery is removed, everything is going to slam into emergency mode. Once we have it, we gotta move quickly. So you definitely need to get that last. Or we can just get it first and improvise.
I'll get the armband.
Leg.
So in that you've got Rocket Raccoon, who's voiced by Bradley Cooper, and also one of the best creations ever in a film, Groot, who's voiced, I am Groot, by Vin Diesel. Joining the group of misfits is Drax the Destroyer. Inside of this prison itself is played by Dave Bautista, and you can obviously probably guess that they managed to escape that, but the ultimate thing is they need to try and stop the ultimate evil Ronan, not only from getting this sphere, but saving the galaxy. They are brought together to try and save the galaxy, the ultimate band of misfits. The thing with Guardians of the Galaxy, I can't even single out what it gets right, because it gets absolutely everything right. It gets the humour right, it gets the pacing right, it gets the set pieces right. It doesn't bog itself down because the fact that you've got 5 different personalities and different characters, it could have fell into the trap where I was explaining the backstories of each one of the characters and spending like a good 20 minutes on each one of the characters. It shows you elements of their life throughout the film, but it manages to interleave it into the plot of the movie so well that you don't even realise you're watching the backstories of every one of the characters. The only one you don't see a backstory with is Groot. Because the fact that obviously you only hear him saying, "I am Groot," throughout the film, yet there are times with Groot you do see something different with him as well. So it's just, this movie, I'm not a superhero movie fan. The length of time we've been doing this show, about 3.5 years now, I'm not a superhero fan. I just don't get the films itself because the fact that it has relied more so in using the first 2/3 of the film to explain the character and give them a backstory, and then realizing it's a superhero movie, it's an action film, we need a big set piece. This film just decides to, no, we're not doing that. We're just going to make it fun. And that's what it is. It's fun. It's what summer blockbusters was missing. It was missing the injection of the brilliance of when your parents used to take you there, and the spectacle of seeing something big like this on the biggest screen possible, with explosions, with humour, with brightness, with colour, with depth, with everything. And Guardians of the Galaxy has that in shed loads. I saw it multiple times. And it's rare for me to go to the cinema to see a film more than once. And I saw more stuff the second time viewing over the first time, and it even made me cry once. So I love Guardians of the Galaxy.
It is a brilliant thing, and it's good to see because it is now what the ninth Marvel film.
Yeah,
ninth Marvel
something
film.
like that.
And,
yeah,
and they just keep getting better and better, and the thing is that it's fresh. For it being a science fiction film, it's not just science fiction. It's comedy, it's action, it's drama, it is, and it's heartfelt as well, and it's brilliantly done. It is a great sort of ensemble piece, not only of the cast but also of everything else. It's an ensemble of genre, it's an ensemble of effects. It's just everything crammed into this, and what they managed to do with it and put it out at the end is fantastic. And the thing that's really good is that when you heard about it first, if you knew about, I don't know the characters in the comic. I know of it, but I didn't know it. And seeing it and then hearing, okay, they've got Chris Pratt as the lead character, he's not a lead actor. He's more of a background character, a supporting actor in films, and not a main character. He's a normally sort of a B grade actor. Zoe Saldana has been sort of lead in some, but she's more of an ensemble one. I mean, she's in the Star Trek series. You have, mostly surprising of all, a bizarre CG character in both Rocket Raccoon, who is a walking, talking raccoon, and Groot, who is a walking, talking tree.
James Gunn refers to Groot as a plant, not a tree.
Okay, but a plant that resembles a tree.
No, he refers to it as a plant.
Okay, but that's the thing. You got them, and then you've got Dave Bautista, who is a wrestler by trade originally, and who last was seen in the Vin Diesel film Riddick, the last Riddick film, and not especially anything outstanding about in this. In this, it shows that he is not only he's really stepped up his game, but he has got fantastic comical timing. With some of his lines are some of the biggest, funniest moments in the film, and that's what's really good. It's taken everything and completely thrown it on its head, as Marvel does, and come out a complete and total winner.
Yeah, because it's like I said with How to Train Your Dragon 2 or films like this, it doesn't rely on one character to be the humour. Every one of them has their humour elements. Even Zoe Saldana's Gamora, she might look very stoic, but even she has some sarcastic quips. Same as Groot, for something that just says his name and I am in front of it. There is one brilliant scene where he's managed to obliterate everybody in this room, and then he does a big, huge, massive smile on his face. And I was in the kink watching that, because it's just he's done something really big like that, really nasty like that, and then he just nonchalantly just has a big, massive smirk on his face. So it just. I think by far it's the best Marvel film. And I do think it is. And I applaud Marvel for what they are doing, because now they get it. They properly do get it. The first wave of Marvel films leading up to the first Avengers films were just cannon fodder to set up Avengers. They're realising now that their films don't need to be canon fodder to set up the Avengers at all. They realise each one of their films is unique in its own and should be watched. You can watch it as a standalone film without relying on any one of the others. And so they're finally getting that, and they've finally got that. And Guardians of the Galaxy is the antithesis of that. It is one of the films which doesn't belong in that universe, because if you look at a recent interview with James Gunn, he says he doesn't like these movies where they belong to proper universes. And so it never feels like it's part of the Marvel universe. But if you look at the other films, even though they have got tie-ins into the next Avengers films, they don't feel like they are part of the universe because they have their own unique elements to them. And Guardians of the Galaxy, I cannot wait to sit down and watch it again because I loved it.
I disagree on the whole universe thing, because I think there are things, obviously that is connected to it, but I agree it is a standalone film. You can watch it and you don't have to have seen the other things because it is its own device.
Yeah, and wait until the Dancing Groot actually properly comes out. But the worst thing is, though, it's not out over here until December the 30th. Bad timing.
That's no good for Christmas then, yeah.
Because I already promised somebody that I was going to get them a Dancing Groot for Christmas, and now I have to go back on my promise and say it's going to be part of the Boxing Day sales now.
Oh well. So what else? Which one are you going to do next? Dawn of the Planet of the Apes or Bayonetta Bloody Fate?
Well, normally we just end on the small film, so we'll have to just stick with the same kind of formula, won't we? Because we've had one big film, and so we've got another big film in the form of Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. It's set around about 10 years after the elements from Rise of the Planet of the Apes, and so if you saw what happened in Rise of the Planet of the Apes, all of Caesar and his kind have managed to escape from the labs that they were kept at and cause a huge, massive... I was going to say a riot, but it just never feels like a riot, an uprising in a way across the Golden Gate Bridge, and they've managed to take over San Francisco, and we've seen what has happened in the period of time, and so Caesar is now living with his brethren in the forests of San Francisco, just managing to just keep their lives together, looking like a proper populated society. And in the first 15 minutes of the film, you don't get any speech whatsoever because you have got apes, but you've just got like sign languages and the mannerisms from the apes themselves. We also find out that the humans now are living in small little pockets in desolated areas of San Francisco because of the flu that these apes have caused, and the human population is starting to dwindle, and so they're having to go back to old times and fend for themselves in ways where it's sort of like going back to the caveman elements, or having to use their own wits and ways to survive. And they realise there is one element that they need. There is a huge, massive hydroelectric dam that's going to provide them with power so they could survive longer. And so they send out a group of people to try and power up this hydroelectric dam. However, unfortunately, the apes are the ones in the way. They live in the forest just beside this dam, and so conflict happens where the group of people are trying to get the apes on their side so they can get to the dam itself. Here's a clip.
You know the scary thing about them? They don't need power. Lights, heat, nothing.
Hey, pal.
That's the advantage. That's what makes them stronger.
Malcolm, I'm thinking one of us should stand guard tonight.
With what? They took our guns.
If they wanted us dead, we'd be dead already.
Maybe they're just taking their time. They already killed off half the planet already.
Come on.
What?
You can't honestly blame the apes.
Who the hell else am I gonna blame? It was a simian flu.
It was a virus created by scientists in a lab. The chimps they were testing on didn't really have a say in the matter.
Spare me the hippy-dippy bull. You're telling me you don't get sick to your stomach at the sight of them? Huh?
And so, as you heard there, you've got a few of the humans who are trying to think, well, wouldn't society be much better if we all worked together? Yet you know that an insurgence is happening within both camps. And so in the ape one, you've got, is it Corby or Corby? Corba. You've got Corba, who's sort of like realizing that Caesar's time is up and he can be the leader of the apes, and apes can take full control. Yet in the human camps, you've got Gary Oldman's character who believes it's time for humans to rise up again and take back what supposedly belongs to them, even though if you look at the way evolution has gone, it's more ape-like rather than human-like. And that's the thing with the film. It gets both elements spot on, because the fact that it doesn't just concentrate mainly on one side of the story. It shows you the plight of both sides. So it's a brave thing to open up the film, the first 15 minutes, with very little speech in it at all, and showing how the apes have actually sort of like took the human traits that they were taught and brought that into making a society, a populated society. And yet you look at the human side of it and them trying to rebuild it, and you start to see that through the film, but ultimately that disintegrating from the inside, because two people are thinking that we need to start war again. And it is that ultimate human thing where they think that war is the answer to everything when it is not. And it's just brilliant how they get both elements of war and how humans and other species can live together. Spot on. It's down to, on the ape side, Andy Serkis, who plays Caesar, and a lot of people have been saying that it should be time for an actor who's now doing numerous CGI characters to get a nod for an Oscar, and I completely agree with that, because Andy Serkis is acting. He's not just doing a green screen thing and sitting there in a suit and just moving around a little bit. He is properly acting. He's on set all the time. And so when he did play Smeagol or Gollum, and when he did play King Kong, and in this, when he does play Caesar, he's there on set rather than the actors looking at green screen. So I think he deserves a nod. The same with Toby Kebbell, who plays Cobra. He's brilliant in the film itself because it shows the anger side of the apes. And again, with the human, I think the human side, out of them both, is the slightly weakest one, but it's still they're still balanced really well, and it's a really enjoyable film. It could have went badly, because you've seen the way the apes films have gone, and over time, I think this is like the 7th or 8th ape film, and so over time it got boring and it started meandering and it just ran out of ideas. It's been an injection, and it's a brilliant injection. And Matt Reeves, who previously worked on Cloverfield, is the director of this, and so he's shown that there is much more life left, and obviously we're probably going to get a third one, and I'm glad we're going to get a third one, and I can't wait, because this is handled really well.
I agree. I mean, it's a fantastic film, not only as, and again, it kind of, you don't have to watch the previous film to get it and understand it, and that's good. It helps, and obviously it's part of a continuing series, but the thing with it that's really amazing is that how much it does focus more on character than anything else, and that's why it's so good, because the fact is that you not only care about the human characters, you also care about the ape characters, and you care about the ape characters more because they're so intriguing, so brilliantly portrayed, and so brilliantly brought through to the screen by not only the performance, but the performance going through the CGI effects that are put over them to make them look like apes. And it's brilliant done. You've got not only that, as you said, as you've got the Andy Serkis and Toby Kebbell. I don't know the actors' names, but you've got actors playing other apes, their sons, and you've got one playing Maurice,
which is a female.
It's brilliant.
Karen,
they're characters that don't talk.
Karen Konoval. I wrote her down specifically because Maurice is a you might instantly think is a male character, but it's played by a female actress. And so, like Andrew was just saying there, the fact that they've got actors and actresses to play each one of the main apes rather than just relying heavily on CGI.
Yeah, and the thing is that Maurice is actually a character that was in the first film, and so it's great to see character sort of expanded on, but also there's a point to the character. It's not just there for a perfunctory reason to chase a story forward. The characters are the story, and that's what's the most important thing in this. It's the whole thing, and both sides have their characters. Both sides have the ones that want the war. Both sides have the ones that don't want the war and want peace. And that's what's great, having this opposites of the kind of two sides of the coin of humans and apes.
Yeah, it's going to be a nightmare for me to choose movie of the week. You'll probably guess which one I'm going to go with. But releasing these two films side by side, a lot of people are going to be very skint this Christmas.
Well, they won't have to buy it because other people will buy it for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, final movie of the week.
It's Bayonetta Bloody Fate. Now, because of the fact that there was Guardians of the Galaxy and Dawn of the Planet of the Apes released in the same week DVD-wise, I don't think very many companies just thought that it was a good idea to release their films this week. So we've got a deluge of loads of stand-up DVDs and also maybe some reissues. And the fact that Spirited Away is finally getting a Blu-ray release, and so the first Japanese film, animated-wise, to be nominated for an Oscar and win it in the Best Animated Film category, and it brought Studio Ghibli more to the forefront. It's nice to end off the show with a manga film, because we very rarely get to review manga films as well, because we normally just pass them by a little bit. And so this is Bayonetta Bloody Fate, and it's based on the 2009 video game of the same name, and it's directed by Fuminori Kazaki, who worked on the game itself, and Jonathan Klein, who's more of in the American studio, who worked more on the second game. So the second game is a Wii U exclusive, surprisingly. And it just follows the character of Bayonetta, and she's an Umbra, or a witch, and she has this brilliant, unique ability and able to create her outfits and costumes out of her own hair. And it uses this element multiple times during the film, because there is multiple scenes of her completely naked, but the important elements of the body just blocked out with hair. And if you played the video games themselves, it follows the same kind of plot in the first one. You've got the angels and the left side and the right side, and so one is represented by the colour of blue and one is represented by the colour of red. And when both are brought together, the person who manages to do that becomes the ultimate power. And so you've got these fallen angels, which is represented by light colour and yellows and golds, and you think that they're the good guys, but ultimately they're the bad guys, because you've got this Umbra witch in Bayonetta, her job is to stop them, and the more she stops these angels, the more powerful she becomes, and she's able to summon these huge, massive demons battling against these even bigger monsters. And so this is the kind of thing that Guillermo del Toro, when directing Pacific Rim, was probably having wet dreams on, because these are humongous monsters. You've got three-headed dogs. You've got this monster who's able to go through multiple portals with different arms and heads, and being able to rip apart these deities so big that they're bigger than some galaxies in a way. And so you're not obviously going to get a film that's or an animated film that's based in reality in any way, shape or form, especially when you've got a witch who's wearing high heels, which makes her look like 10 feet tall, which got guns in them, and hair, which is able to create a costume, and her being able to transform into beasts and stuff. It's got a very straightforward story, and you've also got this little girl who's thrown into the mix and who believes that Bayonetta is her mother. And so the film is completely insane. It is nuts. But what you expect from the Bayonetta series, if you've never played the video games, you're going to find absolutely nothing in the film at all. It's only for the people who have actually played the video games or have seen something to do with Bayonetta. So don't go into this if you've never I would even watch a YouTube playthrough of one of the games, because you're just going to be so confused that you're wondering what you're watching. If you've played the games, though, it feels like it's a retread of the story of the first one, with added elements of some of the bosses from the second game itself. And so I have played the first one. I have seen some of the second one being played, and it's fun. It's a manga film that it's got old style manga tropes to it in the animation itself, and so it never pushes the boundaries of animation. But it's fun for Bayonetta fans, and that's what it was intentionally for. It's for fans of the game.
Okay, so I just wanted to ask actually about that. You know the Dead Space animated movies?
Yeah.
Because they were anime or manga as well, weren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it... Because I know that those didn't actually so much as tie in as they were kind of like sequels or prequels to the games, weren't they? They weren't actually the same story as the game.
Well, the first one, Dead Space Downfall, is set in between Dead Space 1 and 2.
Yeah,
so,
but it's not actually only the same. It's not, the same retelling. The way I'm understanding Bayonetta isn't set before or after. Bayonetta is actually the same story as the games, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. Dead Space Downfall is set on the Ishimura, where the first game is actually set, and so it is properly set in between the first game and second game. The second film, Dead Space Aftermath, is sort of like one of these ones where it's like 3 different stories, so it's different to the games itself. So it's more... I think with Dead Space, with the first film itself, you'll have need to have played at least the first game to actually get Dead Space Downfall. With the second film in the Dead Space series, you'll not have need to seen any of it. You'll not have need to play the games neither. With Bayonetta, you'll have need to at least play the first game to get it. So it has more in common with Downfall rather than Aftermath.
Okay. Alright, so TV movies of the week before we round up. I'm not sure if we might have picked the same one because we haven't discussed these yet. I only picked one this week.
Ditto.
Is it on Saturday, 29th?
No.
No. Okay. Well, mine is at 11:05 p.m. on Film 4. It is Watchmen, Zack Snyder's adaptation of Alan Moore's comic, and it's a very, very good but graphic 18-rated movie. So beware that there are some really harsh scenes in it, but it's a very, very good adaptation, I think.
And a very long one as well. It's on for nigh on near 3 hours, so...
Yeah.
So you'll be up until like 2 o'clock in the morning with adverts as well, so watching that film. So it is really long, so you might need to record it slightly.
That?
My choice is a British film. It's also on Film 4. It's on Wednesday the 26th at 9 o'clock. It's Wild Bill.
I almost picked that.
Yeah, I just thought I would pick it because it's nice to give a British film a nod. But Wild Bill is Dexter Fletcher's directorial debut, and it's brilliant. It's very well acted. Will Poulter's in the film itself, and it was the one that brought Will Poulter more to the forefront. And I think he's fantastic in the film. The film itself is just fantastic, and it definitely needs to be watched. And it's on a more respectable time of 9 o'clock, and it's not on for 3 hours.
No, there's that as well. Okay, that's it for this week's show. Just as usual, the shout-outs we give out, you can find us mondaymovieshow.co.uk. You can email us mondaymovieshow@yahoo.com. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/mondaymovieshow. You can find us on Twitter at mondaymovieshow, or Stuart is on there as at Cryptic Tadpole, and I'm on there as at AHDVD. And hopefully soon you'll be able to find us on iTunes, but in the meantime, if you're not already listening to us on there, you can find us on Podkicker on Android devices, so you can go on there, and back episodes of the show are available on there. So if you go on there, you will be able to see them. Hopefully now they'll start to be getting updated with details, but at the moment, if you go back by week, you'll be able to see and compare them with the website, with mondaymovieshow.co.uk, which tells you what's on each of the shows.
And it could be down to a mystery as well. You could see an episode, click on it, and wonder what they're reviewing on this show. Yeah, so it might be more interesting in that way.
Also, a few shout outs to followingthenerd.com, from page 2 screen with the number 2.com, and the charity Seren Foundation, which is SEREN foundation.org.uk. So, as I say, that's it for this week. We may actually make it for a whole month and be back on a Monday again. Fingers crossed. Next Monday. If not, we will update the website and let you know as soon as we can when we'll be on again. Until then, what we'll do is leave you with a clip of an upcoming film, as we normally do. Next week sees the release of A Little Brown Bear from Peru. In his first sort of live action adaptation, this will be Paddington. So, until next week, we'll see
Movie of the week.
Yes, almost forgot that. Very good. Thank you.
We should have made that as a little podcast extra kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay, should we do that? Should I play the Paddington clip and then do that at the end?
Possibly.
Yeah. Okay.
You have the power.
I have the power. Oh, don't make it go to my head.
God, he's turned into He-Man.
Yeah. Okay. Well, stick around for this clip of Paddington, and then we'll tell you movie of the week afterwards.
Oh, yes, that is good. So, what's your name? Do bears even have names? Of course we do. My name is...
Beg your pardon? Right.
Well, go on. You try it. Look at the throat. Mr. Brown, that is extremely rude.
Oh, at last.
Oh, wait for me.
Is someone coming to get him?
Everyone's gone for the night. He'll just have to come home with us.
No way.
Dad?
Jonathan, stay where you are.
He's so embarrassing. We can't just leave him here.
Of course we can. He's not our responsibility.
He's a young bear, needs our help, Henry.
Then where's that...
It's just for one night. Until we can find the right people to look after him.
There you are. Okay.
So, movie of the week, as we
Guardians
said.
of the Galaxy, Guardians of the Galaxy, Guardians of the Galaxy.
On DVD, I will say yes, Guardians of the Galaxy. But for cinema, and you'll probably be surprised with this, I'm going to say Get On Up.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Get On Up.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Get On Up.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Get On Up.
No, just ended there. Guardians of the Galaxy.